Welcome to another episode of the Black Pantheon, and this week I'm sitting down with Stephen Green. Stephen is a forward-thinking entrepreneur, stylist, and model. In this conversation, we talk about his introduction into fashion, his viral moment after modeling for Rihanna's Savage X Fenty line, and his goal to make brawn fashion more mainstream. Enjoy. Welcome to the Black Pantheon, where I sit down with creators, innovators, and entrepreneurs and listen to their stories through a cultural lens. I'm Abram Schaefer, a content creator and musician, creating captivating pieces of content that push intentionality and going beyond the norm. This video series is meant to inspire, push new ideas, and dive into the minds of great people. Yeah, so for people who don't know who Stephen Green is, tell us who you are and what you do.
For sure. So my name is Stephen Green. I go by Stephen G. Creative entrepreneur. I've been in photography for a little over 10 years now. From photography, ventured into wardrobe styling. And so from there, did a lot of creative direction, working with brands, kind of just map out creatively different campaigns and visuals. And from there, started modeling as of 2 years ago. So that's fairly new on my resume, but that's the sum of everything that I do.
I'm always interested in like the backstories of people, especially creatives, of how you get up to the point that where you are now. So, um, I guess I want to start with like you picking up photography and picking up a camera. How did that start? Where did you lead to? Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, so it actually started in high school. So I got started in high school. I want to say maybe my sophomore years when I actually like picked up a camera.
Hmm.
But I want to say junior year ish. I was on my yearbook staff, and so that's actually when I actually picked up a camera, started doing like publication work. So really mapping out what stories look like on print. That was kind of when I first developed my eye. And then I think as I started shooting more stories for the yearbook, I actually kind of had a knack for fashion. So I started wanting to, what I'm saying, take risk with posing instead of just like, your basic, yearbook photos. You just, all right, here, stand up against the wall. I'm like, all right, so sit down, maybe like here, lay on the floor type vibes. Like I'm doing the most in the school yearbook.
Yeah.
But that kind of really developed my eye into doing more like publications. So doing more editorial work.
Hmm.
So that's when I started. And then my senior year started taking my classmates' senior portraits. And then from there, just developed it as a business. And 2016, purchased my first studio in Brookside, Kansas City,
Hmm.
and been with it since.
The fashion part, like, were you always interested in fashion, or was that like something you stumbled into, or how did that work? Because I really like the the fashion, but also the photography and like meshing the two. And I'm big
Yeah,
on content, so you mixing it into content, which is like hella dope to me. So
fact.
yeah.
No, appreciate that, man. Honestly, shoot, since I was born, I can say I've been into fashion. I was a little kid, like, nah, you shouldn't wear that. Like, nah, change that up. Like that was me as like a little kid. So I always
Yeah.
knew I would do something with fashion, whether it was with clothing specifically or like with photography, just in the industry for sure. But I would say since birth, man, I've been had a passion for fashion. So I think photography was just kind of that gateway to really tell like fashionable stories. Definitely been a big and tall guy. I couldn't really dress like how I wanted to dress because one, my pockets weren't there.
Yeah.
Two, what I'm saying, like we don't have a lot of fashionable options when it comes to like big and tall clothing. So it was one of those things like I stayed thrifting, stayed like shopping somewhere everywhere, just pulling different pieces, trying to be creative with what I can find. So yeah, that's been most of my life, that journey. So me
Yeah.
modeling now, it kind of, is a full circle moment.
This is something I've always struggled with, is like developing style, like my own style.
Yeah.
So how did you do that? Like, knowing that you didn't have the pockets and the money in order to wear what you really wanted to get outside, but going thrifting and stuff like that. Was it difficult for you to develop your own style, or was it just naturally like, oh, this will work with this, and I can mess with it and come up with different concepts? And how is that like?
Yeah, I would say honestly it came naturally just because I feel like sometimes I can really just see something
Yeah.
and then it may not formulate into a whole fit until like I get more pieces together. Then once all the pieces are there, then it's a fit. But sometimes like I just see one piece and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is fire. Like I gotta grab this. Like that's kind of how it worked, especially with thrifting. You know, you don't find like things you can shop for to get a fit. You just find a piece
The
or you
piece.
find
Ah, okay.
pieces, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I gotta have this piece, but then you start shopping more. Say you go to the thrift store, you find a jacket or whatever, a bomber, then you know what I'm saying, you go to H&M and grab some regular sweats, basic tee, you already got a hat, you got some new shoes. So it's like, okay, I can piece it all together. Now it's a full fit. So it really just honestly it's a natural thing. You just gotta, I would say, just be inclined to whatever your eyes like gravitating towards, and
Yeah.
then just go with it, because eventually, it may not be that by itself, but when you actually get it together with something, it's gonna come together.
That's really dope. This in college, this like embarrassing. In college, my only style was wearing bow ties. So I was going to class and I went to Maryville. So that's like 2 hours away from Kansas City. Going
Yeah,
to class in button up shirt and a bow tie. And that's the only style that I that I knew at the time. But it's
yeah,
like I kind of see it's like fashion is in terms of, I guess I would make it equivalent to developing a style and content, because I feel like
hmm,
with my content, I've developed a style and I'm figuring out how to transfer that into what I wear to show like my personality and stuff like that. But I'm interested in, you help other people develop their styles as well and
yeah.
kind of consult them. And how is that process? Like what does that look like? Do people tell you what they want to look like and you help them cultivate that? Or are you giving suggestions? What does that look like when you work with people?
For sure. So I guess from the business side of it, when I do like a style, session, starts with a consultation. So really just try to figure out what is it that they want to do, what they want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Are they wanting to revamp their style? Are they wanting to add to their closet or do like a closet audit? Or are they wanting to actually shop for like a special occasion? So they want to like do a special look, whether this is like a super full on like um, special occasion glam wedding type look. So this is like a moment. So
Yeah.
really figuring that out, finding out what it is that they want to do, what's their goal. Are they wanting to expand their style with a piece, or they want to actually extend their style with their closet? So I do personal styling where I do like closet edits, and then that would include like personal styling where I come to your house, we go through your clothing, even get rid of this, the stuff that is time is over, you know what I'm saying? Like this is no longer useful. And then actually pulling out those pieces that actually do have use that you can, revamp. And so what I do is really just organize the closet from there, and then actually pull outfits from your own clothing. So like it's not considering new items. It's actually using exactly what you have, but just styling it differently. And for me, like honestly, style isn't even necessarily the clothes itself. A lot of it
Mhm.
has to do, for me, it's the fit, it's the flow. So you can really take a sweatshirt or a sweater like you have now. A style can change from you just wearing it from your sleeve to
Mhm.
doing it like a 3/4. It can go from you having your jeans all the way down to maybe cropping it. It can go from a jacket being the lapels down to the lapel up. So it's
Yeah.
really just finding like what your niche is, what really matches your body type, what really matches kind of your aesthetic, and then really just going from there and maximizing who you are.
That's actually really dope. Well, first I've never seen anybody like do anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So when you're helping these people like do this, is it like just a one-time thing where you're, looking at the closet like, I think, these are the pieces that would fit you best? Or is it more so you helping them once and then it's kind of like a journey kind of experience? I'm kind of interested in that because I know as people get new pieces, sometimes it's confusing to know how to layer it or how to match it and things like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on the person. Because in most cases, it is a journey. Because one, I feel like if you're hiring a stylist, it is a luxury service. Like your everyday person isn't just going to hire a stylist. So
yeah.
a lot of people, they do budget for it. But the benefits of that is because the service is one of those things to where it can be a journey to where we really work together on your closet, and we really have a session. Because it's like when I'm there, like it's more than just me styling clothes, it's like we talking, we actually having like real conversation, like, bro, like what's, you know what I'm saying, what's your day-to-day like, what's weekend, what's work vibes, you know what I'm saying? Because really all
Yeah.
of that time to your style. So like what if you're usually like going to happy hours, or you know what I'm saying, you usually link up with friends, you more of an evening person, or you do more business, you know,
Yeah.
you're an entrepreneur and you're more like in the tech world. So a lot of that just kind of really ties into personal style and really just developing who you are, not necessarily trying to keep up with a trend, but actually developing your style. So I would say like it can be a journey to where we do the, you know, the closet edit, we do the personal styling, and
Yeah.
that can actually keep you good for a good 3 to 4 months, because you've been able to one kind of see how I rework your closet, and it gives you kind of an idea to be creative and get your mind going with things you can do when I'm not there.
Yeah.
For some cases too, it's like, okay, well, I like this more often, and more people like they're like you said, buying new items. I'm like, okay, what could I do with this? And then you know, I come and I put 45 looks together with, you know, that particular piece or something like that. Then you can go about it like that. So it really just depends on what your goals are, how often you choose to shop, how
Yeah.
often you want to, you know, revamp, like what type of looks you want to go for.
Mhm.
It really just all depends, but that's usually the pace that it is, like a seasonal journey or quarterly journey.
That's dope. So I'm interested like in developing your own style because I was looking through your Instagram and you definitely the fits that you come up with it's like dope.
Appreciate
So
it.
in creating those fits, especially when you were younger, were there specific, I would say, icons or brands that stood out to you in order to be like, I want to do something like that. I want to put stuff together like that, or was it all these different pieces that you just wanted to try out?
I would say it's a little both. Definitely, it's a lot of pieces that I just wanted to try out.
Mm.
Um, and then I would say it's also particular brands, because I have a very like fashionable eye. So like even when I know, like when I was broke, like I'm still looking at like Gucci and Louis Vuitton, and I'm seeing like what are the main trends in high fashion, and
Yeah,
Dries Van Noten and you know Tom Ford. Like I'm looking at those designers, like what's, you know, what's happening. Even though I know I can't afford it, but what I
yeah,
do, I use those visuals to really implement like, okay, I can do that. Like, okay, it's a pair of sweats. Like I can get a pair of sweats. Okay, they layered it with, you know, a jacket and a puffer. Like, okay, I can do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's really just looking at like the trends and really kind of blending it with my own personal styles, what I would
yeah,
do. And so a lot of that just comes from just looking at so many different designers, so many different other creatives to just finding inspiration and really just trying to make it work for me, because you know, as a big and tall guy, like I can't wear everything for
yeah,
me, in my opinion, you know. So I try to do things that fit like my body type. And I'm big on tailoring. So I recommend anybody, big, tall, short, skinny, uh, get a tailor, because that changes the game. Whether you want it to fit, you know, a certain way, more tailored, more slim, or you want it to fit more boxy, you want it to fit more, you know, um, just contour to your body. A
yeah.
tailor would change, you know, the simplest fit to, you know what I'm saying, something that looks super expensive.
That is amazing. So I think that's really dope. So is fashion or I guess the way you were looking at it is like, okay, the Tom Fords, the Gucci's, you see how they were making these outfits. Was that in terms of you practicing and like just trying on different stuff, whatever you had at home, and then going out and basically mimicking the outfits that you wanted to eventually wear? Or is it just like how you said you have an eye for it? You're just picking it out and you already just know, okay, this would look good. Like, did you have to build up that cadence? Or was it like a one and gun type thing?
Think it's kind of both, because I would use what I see as inspiration, but sometimes I would just dress how I feel. Like sometimes I feel like, man, I really want to I really want to put on a fit today. Like I really, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like I would have those moments. And sometimes I'd be like, well, I really just want to be chill, but I want to be, you know, fashionable at the same time. So it's like um, using how I feel and blending it with style is kind of how I've developed like my cadence now.
yeah,
So I would say like, you know, I just started now that I, you know, work a lot and I travel a lot. I've invested in more like cozy clothing,
hmm,
but not just, you know, standard clothes, cozy clothing, not just, you know, your basic sweats. I try to look at like something that I can rework a lot, or look at, you know, particular pieces that still could be cozy, but it gives off like a luxury vibe. Or I'm a heavy on accessory type dude. So I like rings and hats and shades and things like that, that I feel like can take a look to another level. So like I do, you know, something basic and I just accessorize it just so I can still feel like me, even though
Yeah.
I don't feel like getting dressed today. You know what I'm saying? So it really just depends on how I feel.
That's dope. So in when you bring in that like bring that whole journey, and I'm interested when you wanted to start making content around that. Because I know with me, like fashion and content, and I see both of them together and they work really well, I'm like, dude, like that's just two different beasts and you combine them into one. So
Yeah.
when did you start the journey on creating content or just seeing the avenue like I might just want to start posting my fits? So
So I would say like around 2017, like that's when Instagram became a little bit more polished. So I
yeah.
think, people were kind of taking their aesthetics more seriously. So
Mhm.
for me, I really didn't post like fits to be like, this is my, like this is what I'm doing. I just
Yeah.
wanted to post a fit because I thought I looked nice. So I'm like, let me just post a fit.
Yeah.
But then I started styling later that year, early 2018. So it was like one of those things where I'm like, I can use Instagram to, showcase my personal style, but also be able to get clients that way.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things, excuse me, that I used Instagram to do that. And that was kind of like the reason why I started being more strategic with what I posted. And it just so happened that along with me posting my fits and being more stylish, that I guess for other people they thought I was modeling. So it really opened up the door for me to become a model through me using my Instagram to post like style content. So that's
Yeah.
kind of like that journey, how that segued into that.
Were you looking at other, I wouldn't say like fashion influencers, but just people that were posting content around fashion? Or were you looking at what they were doing when you started to be more strategic about it? Or did you just like, I'm just gonna post it or I'm gonna create my own style?
I think it was a little bit of both. Like I'm definitely like I'm a creative, so I'm always trying to find ways of, or not ways, but I guess trying to find avenues of creativity.
Yeah.
And I think seeing other creators, it just draw up more inspiration. And so definitely had like key people I followed. Like I would pay attention to how they shot their content, pay attention to the quality. And so a lot of the things that stood out to me that I wanted to emulate, I would just pull those things and then I just married it with my own personal style and my own personal creativity. So just having that marriage of the two kind of come together, and that's how I developed my style, my cadence with things. And now I've gotten more comfortable because I think a lot of times that I wasn't comfortable, I tried to use it as like a template versus me actually being okay with my authenticity of how I curate my content.
Mm.
And so from a business standpoint, it was more like a template to use and also kind of like a blanket where I'm like, okay, I know this will be successful. Then started taking more risk and being more just creative and more just playful with my content to where
Yeah.
that became part of my cadence.
I'm big on content like, in terms of authenticity. I feel like
Yeah,
people can read through BS.
right.
So when you were making like the content, when you coming up with these fits, were you ever overcritical of looking like, oh dang, were you ever in a period where I'm doing this for likes and not just doing it because I love it? Sometimes I know with me, I was in a phase where um I wouldn't say I was following what everyone else was doing in order to get like a repost or in order to get a like, and knowing that drained me down so much. Where I was like, I'm just gonna do what I do, and if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. So were you ever in that phase like, I want people to notice me for my fashion, so I'm just gonna do what everybody else doing?
I would say yes and no. I really didn't have like a moment to where it was more like I wanted to necessarily get the likes.
Mhm.
I just think because I've always been business oriented, like I'm usually always chasing the bag first. It was like, okay, what can get me paid? And
Yeah,
what is it that, brands like and look for? So it was kind of like, okay, I need to position myself as a content creator professionally.
yeah,
And this is what's going to kind of push me there. So I need the likes because the likes will create revenue.
yeah,
And, creating revenue creates the job opportunity.
yeah,
So that's how I looked at it in that sense. And then I kind of just repositioned myself to, again, more of an authentic approach, while really keeping that same thing in mind, because at the same time it is a business, a great opportunity to become a side hustle or a full hustle, honestly, at this point,
yeah,
the way Instagram is curating content and creating really just opportunities to make money. But uh, it's more so just marrying the two of, this is what I know the people will like,
hmm,
and then this is what I actually like, and I want to kind of be that inspiration. I know this is what I like. This is how I was feeling. It may be crazy. It may be a risk, but
Yeah,
it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it anyway because
because I saw you got into modeling right before the pandemic.
yeah,
So how were you always interested in modeling, or like was it just I'm gonna try it type stuff?
honestly, yeah. Like I said, I've been a photographer for a little over 10 years. So I've
Yeah,
always been behind the camera and I actually never desired to be in the front of the camera. Like I used to
yeah,
be super awkward in front of the camera and I didn't take, I didn't like taking pictures at all.
yeah,
And really what got me in front of the camera more was creating style content.
yeah,
And so it was more so like, okay, I got to do this because, you know, yeah, I would have models that I, tested and did style content with,
yeah,
but it's still, obviously as a growing stylist without having a pool yet and not having connections to stores and designers during that time, I had to be real creative with what I had. And I
yeah,
knew what I had, I can work my own closet. And so that just positioned me to take more photos. And then with me doing that, then it just got the attention of casting directors and agents. They started reaching out and sending me gigs like, hey, would you be interested in, modeling for such and such and, so forth. And then once that conversation happened on multiple occasions, I'm like, okay, well, this actually might be a thing. So I
yeah,
was like, what the heck? Let me give it a try. And so literally took my digitals, had my wife help me out. We went to my studio, just set up the camera, took some digitals real quick. And then it was random at like 2 a.m. God just really gave me that inclination, was just like, hey, just submit. So I probably submitted to like 10, 15, 20 agencies that night. And then
yeah.
a couple of weeks later, ended up getting a contract with my agency that I'm with now, Bridge Models.
That is amazing, dude. What I think there's like there's definitely three things I want to hit on that. So that's um I think it takes a certain type of discipline to move from behind the camera to being in front of the camera. And like it takes a bit of vulnerability. It's like I'm definitely used to being behind the camera and telling people what I want to see or how they should do it. But like being in front of it, it's like, dang, this is harder than I thought.
Mhm.
Especially and also not you gotta like catch yourself and not trying to be someone that you're not,
Yeah.
in order to remain authentic. And that's tiring. I know for me, like my own content is tiring. And then you got to go back and edit it and make sure everything looks crispy.
Facts.
So yeah, but I'm interested. I know nothing about the fashion business, um, and even just the modeling industry. So when you said you applied to or submitted to all these places, what does that process look like? You are you just taking a whole bunch of photos of yourself in different outfits? Are you catering it to the brand specifically or the agency specifically, or how does that work?
Yeah, for sure. So with modeling, it's something called digitals, and so
Hmm.
digitals are like your basic photos. Typically, people take them with blue jeans, white t-shirt, or black jeans, white t-shirt, black jeans, black shirt. Really, just a clean aesthetic. For women, minimal makeup to no makeup, natural hair. Men, same thing, just in your natural state, and
Yeah,
that's pretty much all that you would really need to get started. That's what agencies look for and use. And honestly, that's what a lot of brands ask for when they're casting. Your portfolio is just really to help uh, decide when you're in a bid with another model and multiple models. Just like, okay, they're comparing looks and different things for that particular campaign, or something that may, have in your portfolio that they have that they use to compare. Whether it's a high fashion shoot, commercial, your portfolio is good for that, but you don't need that to get started. Like literally just those digitals, those plain digitals is all you need to submit. That's usually that all that agencies will ask for. But it is good to get a portfolio and have one ready. So that way you do have, work that you can actually use to support you getting started as a model. So that way when you sign, they usually can get you right on the board or whatever,
yeah.
because you have work. But other than that, like that's pretty much it. That
That's
those digitals is all you need.
So when you're reaching out to these agencies, I'm assuming you're doing research before, like you reaching out to them. So do these agencies cater to different things? I guess different types of fashion, or is it like everybody's kind of doing the same thing, or just have small differences?
Yeah, so I definitely researched for sure. And what I wanted to do specifically is, for me, I researched agencies that represented brawn models, which are big and tall models. And then, they have curvy for women, curve models. So mainstream agencies who had curve and brawn boards, boutique agencies, and really just doing my research on all of them. The ones that came up that were, had great, things to say. They had working models. They work with great clients, and so utilizing that research to really narrow down like who would be a best fit for me. And so that's really how I determined like the agency that I wanted to work with, because I knew that that would be alignment for my brand.
I guess you walked into it like the brawn, because I was reading a couple articles about you, um, and you mentioned the brawn, and I've never heard that word before. Well, I've heard it in books, but never in like the
Yeah.
fashion industry. So was that something that, I guess, when you were being strategic about how you wanted to move into this, was that something you were like, I'm not seeing a lot of representation, and I think I could be able to put my voice or put myself into it and stand out?
For sure. I mean, definitely when I actually kind of transitioned fully as a model, I was like, okay, yeah, this is dope, because one, it gives me the opportunity, being a fashion head since birth really gave me
Yeah.
an opportunity to really engulf myself in the business, but also be able to provide opportunity for other blind men to actually get access to fashionable clothing and to really create a conversation for that to happen, for more designers and for more boutiques, for more mainstream fashion houses to actually start catering to the broad, big and tall market, because it's very slim to none. That not
Yeah.
only do you not have the representation, but if you don't have the clothing, it's hard to have representation if you're not even necessarily making the clothing available. So that's the main thing. The main reason I would say that I wanted to use this platform too, just as a model, just because I know that for me, I'm like, yeah, I love to throw on a Louis jacket, but it already is gonna run small, but it definitely is not gonna come in my size. But
Yeah.
now, seeing that representation, seeing more fashionable, big and tall men popping up, it's like, okay, yeah, we got an audience, we got a target audience that's been slept on. So yeah, definitely wanted to use my voice for that.
And I think that's dope. Like finding, I call it like the back door, like finding a back door in, find a side door in, and be like, I have something special about me, and knowing that you can use it to your advantage. I think that's like a really, really dope thing. So I'm interested now in your collab with the Savage, Rihanna's, I guess, fashion line. I think that's what it would be called.
Yeah,
When I saw, so the first time I think I swiped on Twitter, I saw you trending, and I was like, this dude is dope. I was like, okay, that's cool. And I was seeing all the comments and all that stuff, and then I saw it on Twitter, and I didn't know you were from Kansas City at that time. So I seen everybody from Kansas City posting in. It's like, oh, yo, look at Steven. This is dope. I was like, oh, this dude is from Kansas City. That's like huge. So what I saw that you said you thought it was a mistake, or like I wouldn't say a scam, but you just thought it was a mistake.
yeah.
So how, when you first saw that, what was like your, were you like, I should respond? This dude is trying to scam me. Um, it feels like a dream. How did you feel in that situation?
Yeah, man. Honestly, I was shook, like, because I felt like I knew it was an opportunity, but I was thinking, because the brand, like, I was already familiar with Savage X Fenty. I'm like, yeah, this lingerie. So I'm like, what they gonna want me to do? So that was kind of like my initial
Yeah.
thoughts. Like, hold on, I ain't really built like that. Y'all want me on Savage X Fenty? Like, nah, that ain't. You might want my man's with the six pack. Like, that's the vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and just really just talking with my agent, just reaffirming like, have they seen me? Like, I ain't gonna lie, bro, I was really nervous. I'm like, hold on, let me make sure before they try to get me out here shirtless. Send them this pic, like, let them see this real quick before they get out here and try to embarrass me. Like, that was the vibe I was on initially. Then they was just like, no, we want to use you, we love your look, etc. And that just really gave me some comfort. And then actually going out there to do the shoot, working with the team, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a vibe. Like, everybody, one, her team is super diverse. Everybody's down to earth, super fun to work with. And I think, her team is a representation of who she is. And I think that's dope to really see, like, a culture cultivated in that way. And so it was definitely an opportunity that I wanted to just do anyway, because who wouldn't want to work with Rihanna? Like, that's like, Rhea is that, she's that girl. She's like
Yeah.
killing it. So I definitely wanted to do it for that. But secondly, just to kind of see what it was about. And a lot of people don't know that was actually my very first shoot as a
Are you
model.
serious?
Yeah, it was my very first shoot.
Dude, that is huge. That's really dope. Okay. Okay, that's huge. So I feel like in that moment, okay, you do this shoot, your first shoot, which is really dope, and then having all this virality hit all at once. Was
Yeah.
there um did it hit, all that time when you was like, oh dang, I'm viral? What did you have some type of, I wouldn't say imposter syndrome, just like this is too much going on at once. How do you feel after that happened?
Yeah, man. After it happened, it took a minute to really set in. Honestly, like even now, I'm starting to actually realize kind of the celebrity behind it
Mhm.
in terms of like recognition and people know who I am, things like that. To where it's I've gotten accustomed to it, but definitely when it happened, like it just felt surreal. Like it really felt, you know, I really didn't believe it. And I
Yeah.
think because everything around me was majority the same, it was just in the social world. So like if I wasn't logged in, online, it was still real life for me. Like, I'm still
Yeah.
going to the grocery store. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I got to do day-to-day things, but then it became more of a thing when it got picked up on TV. So then it was, on the real, and I was interviewed by Drew Barrymore, and
Yeah.
it was on the View. Then, reached out, did the story with Vogue, and
Yep.
it was just like, oh man, like okay, yeah, this is real. And so I would say it was a major shock factor, but it was also kind of a dope experience because I was able to use my voice in this way that I may not have been able to with photography.
Yep.
Because photography is just my art. Like I used to express my art, but I think with modeling now, it's not only my art, but it's also my voice, my passions, and the things that I represent and who I am. And it gave me a platform to do that. So it was more like, man, I was just engulfed in the blessing of it.
I'm interested in, did you feel like you had to change any of your content, or you feel like, I need to be more than I probably was because I was featured in this? Or how did you, or even if you didn't, how did you remain authentic after that virality?
For sure. I mean, I think for me, I really pride myself as being a real individual. Like I feel
Mhm.
like anybody that I meet, that's one of the things that I will stand 10 toes down and will believe that they will say first, like,
Yeah.
Steven has never switched up. He's always been the same since day one. And that's something I really pride myself on. I come from a huge family, so I'm very family oriented, even with people that I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that when you meet me, you typically gonna get all of me. I'm not really extroverted,
Yeah.
but I'm not really a person that will, shy away from who I am or just really just following the inclination of God to do or say anything that I need to say or do. So it's more so them, I would say, just being rooted and grounded in who I am and whose I am is one of
Yeah.
those things that really kept me, you know, sane and level headed, making sure that I'm humbled and not really think of more than what I am just because, I went viral on social media and all of that. So
I like that. I really like that. Okay, that's cool. In terms of, after all of that happened, how did your content change? I guess creatively, was like, were you like, I need to step on my game, or I feel like I'm doing the same things. I should be doing the same things that got me into this position. In terms of even, probably not even posting on social media, but just doing with modeling and photography and all this stuff.
yeah, for sure. I would say it changed in the sense of I've always been a hard worker, and that's
Mhm.
one thing I would say that um, really helped a lot, other than just being favored,
Mhm.
but just working hard, making sure that I position myself to be ready for opportunities like that by actually believing that I was there already. So
Mhm.
really putting the things in place and really formulating my plans to actually let that be the outcome. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, with that, it was more so like, okay, now you got this platform, now just seize this moment. And so because that had already happened months in advance, I had already planned to drop content. So I had content pretty much waiting, basically being my own PR, my own press,
Wow.
you know what I'm saying, knowing that this moment could have happened.
Yeah.
But definitely I wanted to use the momentum behind it to just continue to push. So I think, just being prepared and being ready and working hard to have that content really just got me in the mindset of, okay, keep working harder, but now just position yourself and do the things that's going to get you to the next steps. Like, okay, if
Yeah.
it's hiring an assistant, hiring a team, hiring press, hiring PR, just doing all of those things to really make sure that now I'm taking the necessary steps to do more. But in the sense of my content, it was just more so, again, just thinking, okay, like this is a business opportunity. You know, it's definitely a
Mm.
great opportunity, but for me, it's like, okay, now we got to level up and just make sure that, you know, you're doing the right things to maximize on the potential to really be able to generate, you know, another source of income, another source of wealth,
Yep.
to do what you want to do. So that's kind of my outlook on it, I would say, with my content.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned like the preparation, thinking multiple steps ahead. Like you had that stuff prepped and already ready to go. So I guess you can inform me on this. So after, that happens, you did, Rihanna Savage, ex Fenty. What happens after that? Do you still have to, I don't know if you apply or compete for these other modeling positions or anything like that, or is it more so you riding on the coattails of your other accomplishments within modeling? How does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, as far as castings, I still get casted like anybody else.
Yeah.
I just think that, you know, my face is more recognizable. So when I am in the casting, they're like, okay, you know, we love what, you know, he's represented, what he's done. And so that just kind of, I guess, will position me a little further in a way
Mhm.
because it has built us, like I said, a celebrity around it
Yeah.
to where it has recognition. And so I think that that's helpful because people have been able to identify with my brand more. Like I've been doing this for years, but because of the viral moment, now it got other people, you know, eyes on my page and on my content and seeing like, okay, he actually, you know, represents, you know, something great. And so I
Yeah.
think a lot of that aligns with brands. And so they want to collab or they want to work together. They want to, you know, do partnerships based upon that. But then also, you know, I'm in that same pool as everybody else.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, with me still understanding that, it's just like, okay, how can I set myself apart? And so again, it's just me positioning myself in a way like, how can I do more with my brand to, you know, go above and beyond? How can I stand out against the rest? Because it's just like any other job. You want to be, you know, you want to be booked. So it's like, you
Yeah.
know, just do what it takes, do what's necessary to build your brand and build that visibility and build likability to be casted.
I would say like a relationship. Like, are you still building relationships within these casting or agencies or whatever like that, to where you've interacted with them and they know not just that you're a dope model, but like the integrity or the character of you, which
Yeah.
goes within that industry. I don't know how that works, but does it kind of work like that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think just me being in the industry before
Mhm.
really helped a lot because, you know, me being a photographer, me working with agents outside of, you know, actually being a model, I
Yeah.
understand the expectation from brands and from clients and from designers. I understand what they're expecting already.
Hmm.
And so me being a model now, I go in knowing that expectation. So that's how I perform. I perform well. I'm on time. I'm professional.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm making sure to network. I'm making sure to actually be a likable person and not somebody who is hard to work with.
Yeah.
So considering all those things, it's building those relationships. So when you are on set, it's like, okay, yeah, we love working with him because he made work easy. Everybody want to work with somebody who makes work easy
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
whatever you do, you know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things. Like I understand that as an entrepreneur. So being a model is one of those things where I just apply that same method to, you know, get the best outcome.
So in terms of the entrepreneurship side, I think that's the fashion entrepreneurship, or with just creative directing and all that stuff. That's very dope. What does that look like for the future, 2022? How you trying to move forward with everything that you got going on?
For sure. So the end goal, my wife is actually a brand strategist and social strategist. And so that's actually how we met. So I was doing her photography, she was doing my marketing. And so with that, you know, obviously building that relationship when we got married, we definitely wanted to go in business together just because it made sense. And so eventually, I think the end goal for us is to establish a full creative agency, being able to service small businesses and other creative entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs outside the creative space, to, you know, pretty much just do everything that we've already do, but just on a larger scale. So whether that's actually shooting e-com and lifestyle campaigns, curating the content, creating social strategy behind it, creating marketing material, creating, you know, all of the assets you would need for social all in one place. So pretty much being that one-stop hub for creatives and entrepreneurs to be able to develop their business and be able to go from there. And also with that, definitely wanted to myself. I'm a partnership director part time now for a nonprofit caring for kids,
Mhm.
to where we partner the community with the schools. And so eventually stepping away from that, but my end goal is to do that for myself under the brand, being able to create a space for teens to be able to have whatever resources they need, whether it's editing software, audio engineering equipment, photography studios, and they can actually learn the business in a pace to where they would definitely excel and really learn the root of it to actually be in a position to where this can be a job for them. This can be a career for them, and not just a job, but a career for them.
Mhm.
Leaving high school and be able to set themselves up for success. So that's the
Dude,
end goal.
that is amazing. For one, I think we need more Black-owned creative agencies. Um, I,
Absolutely.
like I see that in the because I work in advertising, so this is the space that I'm in, and I want to see more people that look like me because Black people have amazing ideas and
Right.
creatively feel like we're ahead of the game. We're moving culture at light speed ahead of everyone else.
Right.
So just seeing that that is one inspirational. Two, the I know when I started I started music producing like in high school. I didn't have any of those systems, so I was like hacking those softwares in order to get them on my computer. So I
Yeah.
wish I had something where I can go to a program where I could work on Logic Pro X, or I can learn how to use Premiere or Photoshop to help me develop those skills without doing it in a sketchy way.
Yep.
But dude, I definitely appreciate you for hopping in this conversation. Dude, you're someone I look up to in terms of content. I've been seeing your stuff, just how you interact, and now talking to you is definitely a pleasure for real. So I would say keep grinding. I thank you for being on the Black Pantheon.